NASCAR 25 represents a significant milestone in the world of racing games, not only for being the franchise's return to consoles after years of absence, but for being the first title developed independently by iRacing Studios, a company with decades of experience in high-fidelity simulations. The decision to put iRacing at the forefront of the project was strategic and loaded with expectations, as the developer is widely recognized for its sim racing platform used by professional drivers to train for real NASCAR events. This brings a huge weight of authenticity, but also an implicit pressure. Fans don't just want a beautiful game, they want an experience that breathes the same air as real tracks, with precise physics, tactical communication, and an atmosphere that goes beyond the track. The game's development context is deeply rooted in the history of iRacing's founder, Steve Myers, and his team, who have worked together for over 25 years since the days of Papyrus Racing Games, responsible for classics like NASCAR Racing 2003 season. This technical and emotional legacy is one of the project's pillars, as many of the developers have vivid memories of the golden era of NASCAR games on consoles, when titles like NASCAR Thunder and Dirt to Daytona were benchmarks. Now, with direct access to NASCAR data and decades of refinement in simulation, they have the opportunity to correct past mistakes and deliver something that longtime fans truly deserve. A game that not only imitates but reproduces the sport with technical and narrative fidelity. One of the most personal aspects of the development is the presence of Dale Earnhardt Jr. as an executive producer, an iconic figure who, in addition to being a legend on the tracks, deeply understands the culture and emotions of the sport. His influence goes beyond marketing. He helped shape the career mode's narrative, ensuring that the player's decisions reflect not only performance on the track, but also team management, contracts, and media pressure. This transforms the career mode into a human journey, where every victory carries weight and every defeat can cost a sponsorship. It's an approach reminiscent of sports management RPGs, but with the intensity of a racing simulation. The acquisition of development rights by iRacing in 2023, following the collapse of motorsport games, was a turning point. Years of frustration with inconsistent titles, dated graphics, and predictable AI left fans skeptical. iRacing, by taking control, not only inherited the license but made a moral commitment to the community to restore dignity to the NASCAR name in video games. This explains the obsessive attention to details like the full inclusion of the Arca Menard series, something unprecedented in a standalone game, and the extensive list of real drivers with their official paint schemes. A sign of respect for the fan who collects t-shirts and follows every stage of the season. The development of NASCAR 25 is, for me, a story of redemption. It's the chance for a team that lived through the franchise's peak and decline in gaming to return to the spotlight with a product that honors the past but looks to the future. NASCAR 25 features gameplay that delivers an experience very close to authentic NASCAR racing simulation, especially when compared to its predecessors and other games in the genre. The car physics have been adjusted to be more realistic, more similar to iRacing's, which requires the player to drive with more discipline and technique. It's not a game where you can just throw the car into the corners. You need to know how to line up the car on entry, use the brakes smoothly, and control the throttle to maintain grip traction and weight transfer are crucial for good performance. This requires some learning, which I quite liked because it brings a challenge that rewards mastering the controller or steering wheel. The game's handling seems to have evolved significantly compared to what the market has offered in recent titles. While previous games sometimes had floaty car physics, this has been corrected in NASCAR 25, providing a firmer and more authentic feel at the wheel, where you feel the weight and real behavior of the car on the track. Another point I found interesting is the difference in car sounds, which vary according to the category, helping to increase immersion and distinction in each race. For those who enjoy adjusting setups, the game offers detailed customizations before races, allowing you to experiment with settings and feel the impact of the changes in practice. An important point in the gameplay is the draft system, the technique of approaching and using the slipstream of cars ahead. It is configurable in the game to make the experience more accessible or closer to reality, but overall, I felt the game maintains a nice balance between fun and simulation. Another aspect is the gamepad control, which requires a certain skill to avoid overusing the throttle and brake, as sudden slams result in immediate loss of control, which seemed like a good move to make the races more challenging and real, even for players who don't use a steering wheel. Regarding the career mode experience, which is part of the more solo gameplay, it promises an interesting journey in NASCAR, starting in smaller divisions and moving up to the NASCAR Cup Series. This mode includes driver progression, season-long competitions, and special scenarios that recreate real NASCAR moments, which I think is a very cool touch of personalization for those who enjoy a deep single-player mode. The interaction with the workshop, adjustments, and career growth are welcome additions to give substance and motivation beyond just isolated races. As for the damage physics, it is more restrained, focusing on visible dents and internal damage, without going to exaggerated extremes that detract from the realism. This has its pros and cons, because although there are no flying parts or total destruction, the penalty for mistakes exists and affects driving, consistent with the type of NASCAR racing where contact is common but needs to be controlled. I see this as a balanced way to maintain the intensity of the races without alienating casual players due to overly punitive damage. In multiplayer, the gameplay maintains its realistic base, with support for up to 40 players, plus the promise of cross-play between consoles and PC, which is important for keeping a community alive. In online races, the interaction and technical competition are intense, and the gameplay demands not only skill but also strategy, with slipstreaming and last-minute overtaking tactics. It's a mode that I believe will please both hardcore fans and motorsport lovers, precisely because it offers access to simulation without sacrificing dynamic fun. From my point of view, NASCAR 25 brings a much-needed advancement to the franchise's gameplay, offering more technical, rewarding, and realistic driving. It doesn't reach the ultra-hardcore simulation level of iRacing on PC, but it's a well-calibrated middle ground for consoles and players looking for something deeper than a pure arcade game. The sense of required control, the details in the car's behavior, the balance in damage, and the setup customization made me feel that this game will manage to please both racing enthusiasts and new NASCAR fans, and I would recommend it to anyone who likes a challenge with the taste of a real race. NASCAR 25 is quite impressive in the graphics department, especially due to the use of the Unreal Engine, which gives the game a modern and detailed look. Realism is one of the biggest concerns for iRacing, a developer known for its focus on simulation, and this is evident in the textures of the cars, tracks, and even in the shadows and reflections. The visual fidelity of the tracks, which are laser scanned, is a high point, conveying a feeling very close to real races. However, in my opinion, despite this technical quality, the game still maintains a certain balance so as not to sacrifice performance, especially on consoles like the PS5 and Xbox Series X. Another graphical aspect that stands out is the detail of the cars, which feature varied paint schemes and layouts, many of them based on real designs. This gives a special charm to the game, as it's possible to recognize the real cars and drivers, something that a fan of the sport values greatly. The visual customization goes beyond a simple aesthetic aspect, and the diversity of cameras, from the traditional chase cam to views inside the cockpit, contribute to an immersive experience. I really like how these different angles highlight the graphical work, making the race more dynamic and visually appealing. On the tracks, it's noticeable that there was an effort to pay attention to environmental details, from the grandstands to the background elements. The use of laser scanning for the tracks helps to represent reality impeccably, reflecting the terrain, corners, and runoff areas with high precision. However, in my personal view, although the game manages to capture the sense of speed and racing environment well, at times the scenery textures can seem a bit static, especially when compared to other games that explore more dynamic weather and crowd effects. As for lighting and visual effects, the game opts for a scheme that varies between daylight and nighttime environments, and in both situations, the lighting is well crafted to bring realism. The reflections on the car surfaces and the glow of the headlights in night races are positive highlights. I personally think these elements are important for increasing immersion. But in my experience, you can still perceive some limitations in dynamic shadows, something that could perhaps be improved with future updates without harming the game's fluidity. A personal impression I was left with is that NASCAR 25 tends to please especially those who enjoy simulation, combined with a realistic and functional visual presentation. The game doesn't try to be a visual spectacle full of exaggerated effects, opting for a clean, precise, and efficient look. This choice makes it clear that the focus is on the realism of the race, and not so much on bombastic visual effects. I see this as a positive point, as it gives the player a more authentic and engaging experience without unnecessary distractions. What caught my attention is how the graphical balance of NASCAR 25 reflects iRacing's philosophy. a game that respects the sport's tradition, valuing visual precision and immersion, but without losing technical control to ensure good performance on all platforms. This sets a high standard for racing games, especially NASCAR ones, which is something rare to see these days. Performance is one of the most impressive aspects of the game, especially considering the recent history of official titles in the category, which often disappointed in terms of fluidity and technical fidelity. From the very first gameplay videos revealed, one thing became clear. iRacing Studios, now at the helm of the franchise, brought with it the technical rigor that only a renowned simulator like iRacing could offer. The game runs at 60 frames per second on the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series consoles. This refresh rate is essential to maintain the sense of speed and precision in stock car racing, where every millisecond counts, and it shows a serious commitment to the player experience, avoiding the stuttering or input lag that could ruin the immersion on tracks like Daytona or Talladega. The choice of Unreal Engine 5 as the technical foundation was not just aesthetic but functional, allowing for solid performance even in highly complex situations, such as races with 40 cars in a pack on a superspeedway. My tests show that the game maintains a stable 60 FPS, even with multiple vehicles on screen, dynamic cameras, and advanced lighting effects, like sun flares and realistic reflections on windshields. The fluidity is accentuated by the use of laser scan data from real tracks, which eliminates visual artifacts and ensures that the car's behavior on the asphalt is predictable and consistent, something crucial for the performance of long races. The driving sensation is more glued to the ground, without the famous Z-axis effect of previous games, where cars seem to slide on the track as if on an invisible rail. This not only improves the aesthetics, but the performance of the physics system as a whole, making every turn, brake, and acceleration a more engaging and responsive experience. For PC players, performance promises to be even more customizable, with accessible minimum requirements such as an Intel Core i5-44430 processor and 16 gigabytes of RAM, but with room for high-end hardware to deliver a top-tier simulation experience. The PC version is being optimized to support a wide range of peripherals, especially steering wheels and pedals, which requires strict control over the force feedback refresh rate. The artificial intelligence of the opponents also directly contributes to the game's perceived performance. Instead of following predictable routines, the machine-controlled drivers react dynamically, forming pairs, changing lanes, and even retaliating against aggressive maneuvers, which demands constant attention from the player and avoids the feeling of racing against ghosts. This realistic behavior, combined with a deep setup system, where adjustments to suspension, tire pressure, and aerodynamics have a direct impact on the car's performance, transforms each race into a tactical challenge, not just a matter of raw speed. Tire management, in particular, is a game changer. Cars with new rubber gain a clear advantage, allowing for smooth overtakes, while those that stay on the track too long face realistic degradation, forcing more elaborate pit stop strategies. The support for triple screens on PC is another indicator of the focus on performance and immersion, a rare feature in console games that is now confirmed for the PC version. This is not just a visual feature, but a performance tool, allowing the player to have a wider peripheral view, essential for pack maneuvers and for hearing the spotter's instructions more clearly. The spotter's audio track itself has been enhanced with AI to generate varied calls, avoiding the repetition that so damaged the credibility of previous games. For fans of stock car racing who want a simulation with updated graphics, realistic physics, and varied game modes, the title presents good arguments for a launch day purchase. However, the decision of whether it's worth buying at release can largely depend on the player's profile and expectations. The game has been noted for its fidelity to the real dynamics of NASCAR racing, with official cars, tracks, and series, including the Cup Series and Xfinity Series, and AI modulations that vary according to the desired difficulty. The presence of elements like spotter calls recorded with real sounds provides greater immersion. Those who enjoy simulation will appreciate the attention to detail in tires, aerodynamics, and racing strategies, such as the very well-reproduced drafting and bump drafting. For fans of intense racing, this delivers that taste of a real race, something not seen in recent games of the franchise. On the other hand, the franchise is at the beginning of a new cycle, so waiting might be prudent for those who aren't hardcore fans. For casual players just looking for quick fun, the game might still be a bit too technical and challenging, with a considerable learning curve. The game features beautiful graphics and physics very much in line with racing, a benchmark in motorsport simulation, which led me to think that to truly enjoy it, precision and patience are important to appreciate the career mode and online challenges. Those who like fast-paced arcade-style multiplayer might not find it as appealing, as the focus here is on realistic simulation and fidelity to the Nascar experience. For fans of more accessible or arcade games, it might be better to wait for reviews or potential updates. Personally, I believe it will be worthwhile for those who are already interested in racing simulators, are fans of NASCAR, or want to delve deeper into the genre. For these audiences, the game delivers one of the best experiences in the franchise's history, with promises of constant evolution through DLCs and support. For those who are not as familiar or prefer more immediate games, waiting a few months for the community to settle and for the price to drop could be a wise decision. For those looking for a game that rekindles the love for NASCAR, brings authenticity, and challenges their driving, NASCAR 25 emerges as an important milestone. It is for those passionate about technique, strategic speed, and the faithful emulation of the tracks. The feeling of driving with real physics, the rivalries on the track, and the robust career mode are its strong points which, in my view, give the game its value at launch. Buying at launch is worthwhile for those who enjoy simulation and real NASCAR racing. For those who prefer a more casual experience or want to see how the game evolves, waiting to see the initial reception can help in making a safer and more economical choice. Either way, NASCAR 25 looks like a title that will mark an important comeback for the franchise and could please many motorsport fans on console.
Everything up that I've ever done, but what's the point of living if you ain't having fun? I guess I'll try this, try that, might miss, gotta find what I'm good at. I guess I look here, look there, over where am I scared, where am I at? I gotta make it in this life, whatever makes me happy, know I'm doing things right. Sipping in the summer on a goose and Sprite, or find a nightclub for the end of the night, oh. And we all got dreams, we all want things, but what you gonna do for it, how you gonna move for it, what you gonna be? And do you